Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to Real Table Talk. Yes, we are back. And I am so excited. First of all, big happy new year. We're in 2022 and it's the first one, the first show for 2022 with you guys. So thank you so much for your patience, and thank you so much for tuning in with us today. That is so appreciated. So my name is Leslie O'Connor, and I am the founder of Real Table Talk. And also I do usually have my co-host with me, Marcia Hilton, but she is not feeling well today, so she is not joining us today. So Marcia, get better soon, and we will see you soon on the next platform in the next couple of weeks. Right, so we have got, I'm going to say Sister Asha, because Marcia calls you Sister Asha. So we have got Asha here today, and we're talking about employment rights. So Asha, before we get started, please just introduce yourself to our audience today.
Sure. My name is Dr. Asha Sefanit-Wudasee, and I do lots of different things, but one of the things that I am passionate about is employment rights. I've been an employment rights advocate for over 25 years, in fact longer, nearly 30 years, and for 25 of those years I was an employment tribunal judge, hearing employment tribunal cases. And I kind of got passionate about this because of my own experiences, but also because of the experiences of other workers and employees. So as an employment rights advocate, there are a number of things which I do, which we'll talk about during this Real Table Talk session. So I won't talk about it now. But just to say that anybody that needs employment rights support, I'll provide you with a contact, and then you'll be able to contact me to talk about your issue.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And yeah, I forgot, it's Dr. Asha, not just Asha, it's Dr. Asha. So yeah, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I know we had a few technical problems when you came on the last time. You was in Gambia. No,
Malawi,
that's right. And Dr. Hall, he can't join us today, which is a shame, but anyway, it's just the two of us today, Dr. Asha. So I'm sure we will be fine. We're big girls, we can handle it. So we're also, with the show, when you're on this platform, we talk to our audience as well. So Marcia usually finds out if who's listening, and if our audience has got any questions, and they will put their questions in the comments. So our audience, if you have any questions for Dr. Asha, please put them in the comments and we can answer those questions, and I will be reading them out. Okay, so let me just make sure we are on there. And yes, we are. And let me say hello to our audience so far, and thank you so much for joining. Please like and share. Don't be shy, it's always good to share. So like and share, and so everybody else can listen to what we're talking about on Real Table Talk. Okay, so let me ask, first of all, Dr. Asha, you said that you started this you've got a passion from this since you were 16. So why was that? How did that grow?
Yeah, when I was 16, there was an employment law on the statute books called Work to Rule. And what that meant was that if there was a trade union in your place of work, you could not work there, even if you got the job legitimately at interview. You couldn't work there unless you joined that trade union.
Okay.
And it was a real shocker for me. And the very first day that I started work, I just remember this person, you know, she didn't even greet me or anything. She just threw these papers at me and they landed on the desk. Half of them landed on the desk, the other half flew to the other side of the desk and on the floor. And she said, sign that or you can't work here.
Wow.
And she stood over me, so I didn't even get a chance to read them. And so I'm 16 and I signed the papers. And then when I got home, on my way home, I went to the library and I looked up what it was that I had signed. And I got really annoyed and I made it my mission that I would never again sign another piece of paper to do with employment law that I did not understand, especially if they were taking money from me.
Yeah.
So that's what got me interested in employment law. And then after that, obviously being a member of the union, I just saw how rubbish it was, how poor the service was in general. And I felt that I could do a better job. I suffered a lot of racism at work and the union were absolutely hopeless. And so I began to defend myself and fight my own cases. And that's what got me interested in understanding not just what my employment rights were, but how employment law works. And then from that, I graduated into working at the top table of the union, nationally, internationally, and also as an employment rights law judge.
Okay, wow. So you've given me lots of information there, but let me just ask you this question. Do we need this service? And why?
Employment rights?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. All employers, or should I say most employers, know if someone doesn't know their employment rights. And if you don't know your employment rights, then everything else about your job will confuse you and liberties will be taken with you because your employer will know that they can ask one or two questions and from your response, they will know if you are someone that they can take advantage of and tell you what rights you have, as opposed to telling you what the employment law of the land is. And those are two different things. So do we need employment rights? Absolutely, we have to have them.
Okay. And so what's your part then? So you do like the union, so because I know like each company, well the company who I used to work for, Leeds City Council, they had, you know, people who was just work for the union and you would just join the union and that. And is that where you stand? I know like now you've got your own business, but is that where you stood before? Like
no. No, because I did not feel the trade union was effective. So I kind of worked alone and I kind of worked within the union structures, but as an independent, because I just didn't like the way that they just didn't seem to care about people who were paying subscriptions. And when I finally resigned from the union, that's when I set up my own employment rights advocacy service called Employment Rights Online.
Okay.
And I felt that I could do a better job. That was the number one reason. But the other reason is that there are 36 million workers and employees in the UK, and only 6 million of those are members of a trade union. Wow. So the other 32 million have nothing. They're not members of trade unions or any kind of union. And so the likelihood is that there are going to be some gaps in knowledge about employment rights. And so part of the reason, because I have a podcast called Employment Rights Online.
Okay.
And part of the reason I started that podcast was so that people could go onto the podcast, skim the various subjects, and then pick the ones that provide them with the information that they need.
Okay.
The podcasts are short, 10-minute snippets, and the intention is to provide short, concise pieces of information and also some downloads that people can use to help them to address any concerns that they have.
Okay. And what's usually the general sort of questions people ask you?
They're always the same, and they're always to do either with contractual rights. So you've started a job. Are you entitled to a contract of employment? Are you entitled to pay slips? Can my employer just deduct money from my wages without my knowledge? National minimum wage, protected characteristics around disability, sex, gender, race, religion, all the other protected characteristics, and discrimination that people are suffering at work. There are also questions about disability in particular and how you define a disability, because most people think disability is a physical disability, but a lot of people don't know that depression, for example, under the social model of disability, depression is classed as a disability in the workplace. Okay. And if you have depression, then your employer has a legal duty to make reasonable adjustments for you so that you can remain in work and do your job. And those rights are protected in the Equality Act 2010, alongside your rights in the Employment Rights Act of 1996. So it covers the whole range of questions that people ask. Am I entitled to a reference? Right. Does my employer have to give me one? Questions like that. Yeah. And so a lot of that is covered in the podcast called Employment Rights Online. And as I say, some people like to start at the beginning and just go through all of them. Others like to go there and pick the one that they need to get the information that they need.
Right. Okay. I've got a question here for you, Dr. Asher. Hello, Leslie. Welcome, Dr. Asher. Can employers send a letter to your GP requesting medical information during long-term sick leave without the employer knowledge?
Without the employee's knowledge?
Knowledge, yeah.
No.
Right, and that
your data is protected under the Data Protection Act and GDPR. Now, when you sign your contract of employment, there is an element called the manager's right to manage. Okay. Now, if your employer needs information about your medical condition, that is your private information, and your employer must get your consent to access that information. So if you decide no, the counterbalance to that is that you're putting your employer in a position where the employer may make decisions about you and your employment without the full information. But the employer does not have, they can send a letter, but with that letter should be signed authorization from the employee giving authorization for the GP to share that information.
Wow, no, thank you for that. And I suppose, that's right, because when you go to the doctors, that's your personal
confidential.
Confidential.
GP information, health information is classed as specialist information, meaning that it's highly sensitive information, and therefore there is a higher tariff for protecting that information.
Yeah, because if they got that information and there was something in that information what they didn't want to see, how would they could use that against you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so this is why they can't access that information without the employee's consent, because your employer isn't entitled to use your medical records as a fishing exercise.
Yeah.
If you have a period of illness that let's say was from September 2021 until now, and that period of illness is about depression, then that's the bit that your employer should be able, if you give consent, that is the bit that your employer should be able to access from your medical records. You having a hysterectomy or a broken leg or heart surgery, these things are not relevant.
Yeah.
It's the part of the information that relates to the period of time that the employer is dealing with. It is not a fishing exercise.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for that. So with employment rights, and so do you cover like the whole spectrum? So like from your breaks to flexi time or holidays and
everything.
Right.
There are a series of podcasts where I deal with all the various different types of leave that you are entitled to. In fact, the very first podcasts deal with your contractual rights, because most people don't even know their immediate contractual rights. You imagine, you've been searching for a job 6 months, a year, 2 years, you get that job, you're very happy and you're very grateful.
Yeah.
And so what you're not thinking about is your employment rights. If they say they're going to pay you £8, £9, £10 an hour, you look at your payslip, and as long as you're getting that money, you're not really thinking about employment rights until there is a problem. And that's usually when employment rights come into play. And the employer will already know that you don't know a thing about your employment rights, and that's when liberties will be taken with you.
Right. Okay. Do you go to court a lot then? Is there a lot of cases? How do you settle cases? When you said you talk, when people get in touch with you, they ask you a whole range of questions. How far does it actually go? Does it go?
I don't represent people in tribunal. I used to, but I don't anymore. And it's because it became too difficult, because when you are or you have been an employment rights judge, it meant that my cases would be moved to Birmingham and all these far places in order to maintain independence. So I stopped representing people, but I do have contacts with some good representatives who will represent for employment rights cases in tribunal. Now, these are not free. Representation is not free. It's one of two things. Either your home insurance policy may have a clause in that policy which covers you for employment rights cases. Most people don't know that. So if you're listening, look at your home insurance policy and have a look at the indemnity sections and see whether there is an indemnity there for employment rights, for legal action that you have to take. Because if there is, if something happens and you need to go to tribunal and you want to buy representation from a legal firm, your insurance company will pay for that.
Wow.
Okay. There are other organizations that will help you, like the Citizens Advice Bureau or the Law Center. But if you can imagine, the Law Center is swamped with cases. And so they're having to be selective about which cases they can take. So that's the second way. The third way is a no-win, no-fee solicitor, what we call a bit like ambulance chasers. Okay, they pick the best cases that have the highest prospect of success at a tribunal, and then they take a percentage of any compensation that you receive to cover the cost of the case. And then the fourth way is to represent yourself. And that's where I come in, because if you're representing yourself, then I offer a paid service where I coach you to understand your case and to represent yourself in a tribunal.
Right. Okay. And do a lot of people do that then? Is
Yeah,
that quite
a lot of
popular?
people represent themselves because tribunals are set up for the judges to help you if you are unrepresented, because you're generally coming up against a company that uses the whole resources. If it's a local authority, they get access to taxpayers' money
Right.
to buy the best legal
Yeah.
representation they can get. It's not coming out of their own pocket. And so there is a tendency to bully workers
Yeah.
with that representation and to frighten you and get you to
Yes.
withdraw your case. And that's where I come in and coach you through the letters and the preparation for representing yourself at tribunal. And it also can include me being on the other end of a phone,
Right.
not just tribunal, but internal hearings as
Yeah.
well, grievance and disciplinary. If you're in there, I'm on the other end of the phone, they've asked me this, I tell people what to do, and then we get it done with me advising them.
Wow, that sounds amazing. You know, a couple of years ago, I could have definitely done with your help. Oh my goodness, with the council. Yeah, they were not very nice at all.
Yes.
But, thank goodness I've moved on from Leeds City Council. So yeah, that's good. So let me just say to our audience, if you have any questions you would like to ask Dr. Asha, please just put them in the comments and we will answer those questions for you. Okay, thank you. So let me just say, right, how different is our law to American employment rights? Is it more or less the same, or what's the difference between this?
Yes, what we tend to find is that the law is the law wherever you go. All countries have the same base law.
Okay.
They just have different names. Right. So in the UK, it's called employment law. In America, it's called labor law. But where we find the differences is in a country like America, for example, although here in the UK, our employment rights are the law of the land. So even though Leeds City Council or Leicester City Council, they have their budgets and they can spend their money on what they want, what they can't do is change the law for Leicester.
Okay.
But in America, they can do that. So Washington can make a law for itself around labor. Texas can do the same. Chicago can do the same. These states can set up their own labor laws. And most of America has what is called the right to work.
Right.
And what that law means is that, excuse me, the employer has the right to decide who works for them and who doesn't.
Okay.
So you can finish work on a Monday, everything can seem okay. You can go home, come to work on a Tuesday and find yourself sacked.
Yeah.
No rights, no comeback, no nothing. Oh, I'm glad you're here. We've sacked you. Here's a box, collect your stuff and we'll get security to let you out of the building. And that's it. No comeback, no unfair dismissal, nothing. Wow. That's called the right to work. And about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe longer, they tried to bring that law to the UK.
Okay.
And they were offering workers a financial settlement, like a cash incentive to do away with their employment rights.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It wasn't even that much money either. Less than £5,000.
Okay.
We'll give you £5,000 if you allow us to institute a work to rule, a right to work law in the company. And I mean, thankfully, it was one of the times where the unions did step up and challenge, because obviously it's going to affect their income. What's the point of having a union if there is a right to work law in this particular city? So they tried to bring in a similar sort of thing to America. Each city would have the right to determine its own employment rights. Do away with the union and let's just have workers' councils. Wow. And I mean, anything that affects the union's income, they will fight. And so they did fight against it and it was defeated.
And do you think that was a good thing? Or do you...
Yeah, I do think that was a good thing. Yeah. Because, you know, even though we have 32 million people who are not members of a trade union, they are entitled to their employment rights.
Okay, yeah.
And they can go to an employment tribunal to enforce those rights.
Right.
So if you don't have them, then there's nothing you can do.
Okay. I've got a question here, and it says, in general, how much does it cost to go through to tribunal?
It depends, because I've given 4 different methods.
Yeah.
The most expensive method of getting to a tribunal is to have a solicitor or a barrister. That's the most expensive, and that can run into tens of thousands, because some barristers charge you a daily fee, and it can be anything from £150 to appear per day in a tribunal to thousands of pounds, 5,000, 10,000 per day to appear in tribunals. So if you've ever wondered why local authorities settle cases, it's because the cost to the local authority, what they do is they weigh up the cost. Yeah, so they weigh up the cost. This is how much it will cost us to bring this case to tribunal. This is how much it will cost us to settle. And they try to find a figure somewhere there. Yeah. So that's the most important way of bringing your case to tribunal. And as I've said, the 2 ways to cover those costs, one is your insurance policy and the other is a no-win, no-fee solicitor. Yeah. If they take your case. Yeah. The other methods, if it's the law centre bears that cost because they get funding. Right. And then the 4th one is yourself, and you just have the cost of preparing your case. Yeah. So regarding, I forgot what I was going to ask you then, it's just gone out of my head. Oh, I forgot my question, it's just gone out of my head. Right, let me ask you something else. So with online, how a lot of people out this, our working methods have totally changed over the last couple of years. And so does that change their rights in any way? I mean, no. Your employment rights are still the same, irrespective of you. I mean, there are additional rights that have come into play, like risk assessments for working from home, health and safety for working from home. So these rights have come into play a little bit more because the employer is supposed to provide you with the equipment that you need to enable you to work from home. So more rights have come to the front, but you haven't lost any rights because of these new ways of working now. Right, okay. And you know, is it down to you, if you're not happy with the situation and your employers, or just say your manager has seen something and they know that that person shouldn't have done that, can your manager, rather than you taking that person to court, can't your manager just intervene and just, you know, go that step forward? I'm not explaining it right. I mean, they could. And that's a sign of a good manager, to mediate amongst the staff team when there are difficulties. But unfortunately, in workplaces are like mini families. There are feuds, there are cliques. Yeah. There's all sorts going on. And a lot of that also extends to the union, because if your representative is in your office, okay, that means that that person is getting workload relief from your employer to work for the union. Okay, but they still know the manager. They're still best friends with your supervisor. And so there are all these conflicts of interest that get in the way of people being able to get a quality service.
Yeah.
And that is the bigger problem.
Yeah. Right, I've got another question here. Can you tell us the benefits for being in a union if you are self-employed?
There's no union for self-employed.
Oh.
Yeah, unions are for employees and workers. If you are self-employed, you don't have employment rights unless you are what's called it's just gone right out of my head.
That happened to me.
Just hold on a minute. Let's say, for example, you have a private company and you are trading with a local authority.
Yeah.
Okay. You're now going, before you would just trade as a private company. Now you have to be on payroll, even though you are a private company. And that's all companies that that trade with local authorities. Okay, it's just gone right out of my head what it's called. IR35. So IR35 is Inland Revenue Form 35. And what that form does is to ask a series of questions that determine whether, for the purposes of the contract that you have as a self-employed person, are you really self-employed?
Okay.
Okay. So let's say, for example, you work as an agency, you work through an agency to provide social work.
Yeah.
If you're providing those services to a local authority every day, and the local authority is responsible for giving you the cases that you have to work, and most importantly, you can't substitute someone in your place, then as far as the Inland Revenue are concerned, you are not self-employed, you are a worker.
Okay.
And so you now have to go on to PAYE.
Right.
The same as employees
in
the company. Okay. And so as a PAYE worker, they're very slow in determining whether you can join trade unions, because technically you're still self-employed.
Yeah.
You're still self-employed. Okay. Now there are some unions that are opening their doors because it's money. You get a monthly subscription from people.
Right.
But being an IR35 worker is not the same as being an employee. It's a different status, and there are a number of statuses that we have. Okay, the best one is employee, because if you're an employee, you get all your employment rights.
Okay.
Then we have worker, or you have employee, and in employee you can be part-time, you can be temporary, but as long as you are an employee on a full employment rights contract, you get the most employment rights.
Okay.
Then you are a worker, and that worker might be somebody through an agency. Okay, casual worker, temporary worker, as opposed to somebody who's an employee on a temporary contract.
Okay. Slightly
Slightly different. Okay, and then you have things like gigging. So your Deliveroo, Uber, these types of contracts.
Yeah.
These have all just now been brought into workers, but before they were a kind of quasi self-employed.
Okay.
Then you have 0 hours contracts.
Yeah.
Then you have subcontractors, and then you have self-employed.
Right, okay.
So there are all these different statuses. Not all workers are the same under employment rights.
Right.
Okay, so as a self-employed person, there is no trade union for you.
Right. Wow. Well, that was for Martin, who would definitely like to have a deeper conversation with you after the show. But I'm sure, you know, if once we finish the show, you can put your details in the comments on Facebook and people can, you know, get in touch with you. And please put your details in there regarding your podcast as well, so people can have the audience can have a look at that information as well. That'd be brilliant. So have things changed, or have they improved? I mean, we've got the employment rights 1996, and then 2010 we got the that
Equality
was
Act.
Equality Act. So has things started to improve then, or have they still the same?
No. Do you know how you get improvements in your employment rights? It's to know your employment rights.
Yeah.
Once you know your employment rights and you have an idea about how to enforce your employment rights, that's how things improve.
Yeah.
Because then you can hold your employer to account.
Yeah. But then, you know, sometimes, sorry to cut you, but you know, sometimes, Dr. Ash, you know, like sometimes you can be seen as that, oh, you're the clever one with the big mouth, you know.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I lived with that for decades, 20 years working with local government. I ended up in tribunal 3 times with my employer, 3 times for racism. Okay. And so you do get labeled, and you don't get promoted. Okay, because vengeance is exacted against you, not just for challenging them, but for helping others to challenge.
Absolutely.
Okay? And that's the reality. And also, if you work in local government or the NHS or the civil service, they're like a closed shop in themselves. They meet together, and so they do discuss you. Oh, we've just got rid, or she's just left. Watch out for her. She might come looking for a job with you. Okay, which is why I do the other thing. Okay, which is about helping people to also develop additional income streams, because you have to have your bases covered. Okay, you have to have your bases covered. We are moving into a very serious period of time for people who work in the health and social care sector and the NHS. Okay. What people might not be aware of is that from November the 11th, I think, everyone who works in a care home, an adult care home or a children's care home, but mainly adult services, must be vaccinated. That is the law now. Right. Okay. Must be vaccinated. And about 80,000 people lost their jobs. The law was changed to not allow them to easily go to tribunal and claim unfair dismissal. So you had people with 16 years experience, 18 years experience, 20 years experience, lost their jobs overnight because they are cautious about being vaccinated and wanted to wait. Okay. Right. On the 1st of April, that law will come in for nurses and healthcare workers. Wow. And there is a prediction again that about 100,000 people may lose their jobs. Wow. Unless they become fully vaccinated. Wow. Now, this isn't a debate about, you know, is the vaccine good, is the vaccine bad? This is about an erosion of people's right to self-determination. Okay, that's my focus. Okay, that's my focus. And so people need to be aware, if you're a nurse, a healthcare assistant, you know, podiatrist, radiologist, all these people have to be fully vaccinated. Now, the health service is saying about 90% of their workforce is fully vaccinated. But the NHS is still the largest employer in the country. So 10% are not. And that 10% amounts to a lot of people. Yeah.
So what can they do then? Can they take their case to a tribunal?
Well,
because when they first started their contract, that wasn't in their contract.
No.
So now that it is in their contract, and they've looked, they don't want that needle, they don't want to be injected. So there must be some sort of case where they can actually fight for that.
Well, this is where things are different, because this is not employment contract law.
Okay.
This is law of the land law, government law. The law was changed to bring this in.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. Now, what's supposed to happen if there is some kind of change to the working environment and you can no longer fit into that job, then we're looking at two things: redundancy or redeployment.
Wow. Okay.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to make you redundant because we've changed the way we work and we no longer have that job here. Or because you can no longer do this job, we have a legal duty under your employment rights to look for an alternative role for you within the business.
But then that wouldn't be right though, would it? Because if it's because they're not vaccinated, then they couldn't offer them anything else, could they?
Exactly, that is exactly the point. The law has been changed to remove these two employment rights.
Wow.
And most people don't know this.
Wow.
So the law has been changed to remove those two employment rights.
Okay.
To prevent people from going to tribunal to claim unfair dismissal. Okay. Bearing in mind that for you to claim unfair dismissal in an employment tribunal, you must have 2 years consecutive employment with the same employer.
Wow.
So having served your 2 years, you're then going to find that the law has been changed and you no longer have the right to claim unfair dismissal. Wow. You can still take your case, but it's likely to be struck out because there is a law that supersedes your right to claim unfair dismissal. And it's the, you know, I don't know what they call it, but I'll call it the mandatory vaccine law.
Wow. So what can people do then? What can they do?
You've only got 2 choices. You either get vaccinated or start looking for another job. Those are your choices. A lot of people, this is why they've got people sedated on soap operas and nonsense. Because whilst you're sedated on those things, this is what has happened, and this is what your MPs have voted for. So there is a change in the law. The first one came in November 2021. The second one comes in April 2022. And you will note that these changes are in areas where women are largely employed.
Wow.
Okay, because I didn't say that they were introducing mandatory vaccines for doctors, did I?
No, I don't think you said doctors.
No, because they're not.
So wait a minute.
Who are the majority of nurses?
So it's women.
Right.
Wow. So, wow. You know, it's so weird. So have they, I mean, I haven't even heard that.
No. Well, you wouldn't hear it. You wouldn't hear it. And what's more interesting is that trade unions that represent these different bodies of workers have been completely silent about it. Oh, they've been, you know, I've seen a couple of rumblings and grumblings, but nobody's talking strike action, nobody's talking legal challenge, nobody's talking anything.
A lot of people are going to be totally affected by this change, because there's a lot of people who strongly feel that, you know, they don't want to be vaccinated for you know, whatever reason, and they should be able to, you know, have that choice. And to bring this law in,
and people are saying, look, you know, I'm happy to take a PCR or an LTF every day if I have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Prove that I don't have COVID before I come into work. I'll take it at the door. But it's my choice. This is about choice. This is not about vaxxers and anti-vaxxers. This is about choice. People's right to determine their own path.
Yeah, it is. And that's very sad.
April the 1st is when the next law comes in, and that will affect nurses and healthcare workers, cleaners in the hospital, cooks, all those people.
Wow.
Anyone that has contact with patients.
Yeah. That's going to affect them all.
They're going to be affected,
Wow. And so the question here, why is that? Why are unions not defending this?
It's a difficult one, and it's a complex question. Okay. Unions have got their interests. Unions and employers, to a large extent, they eat from the same trough. Okay. Unions exist, and unions have, you know, your colleague is the office union rep, because the employer works with the union to give that person workload relief. Do you understand? So they, you know, it's a you scratch my back, we'll scratch yours kind of relationship. Okay, that's what it is. Only the kinds of cases, the sexy cases that unions like to go for are the class action cases. So the cases you're likely to see unions fighting are, you know, 2,000 women from Tesco fighting for equal pay on the same work, same value principle. They like those kinds of cases. Because these kinds of cases set legal precedent, and also it bigs up the name of the union. But these smaller, you know, real serious changes to people's livelihoods and people's employment rights, they're very quiet about them. Because I work in employment rights, I follow what is happening. And so and then I podcast about this. Changes, so that
so we definitely so we definitely need your podcast details in the comments. We definitely, guys, you definitely need to be listening to Dr. Asher's podcast for lots more information. Martin says as well, so is it the case of the union members not making enough noise?
I think sometimes, but equally and unfortunately, when people join trade unions, they're paying just in case money. That's what I call it. They pay just in case money and then sit back and think, oh, I'm in the union. Okay. Just in case something happens, I'm in the union. But then when something happens, you suddenly find that the 15 years of subscriptions that you've paid to this union count for absolutely nothing. Okay? You know your case better than the person that's just shown up 2 minutes ago. And intends to represent you. And then you see a cozy relationship between your representative and the council worker, and they do that deliberately for you to see. Oh, hi, Julie, you're right. You okay? Yeah, fine. Oh, you representing Leslie? Yeah, I am. And you're thinking, hang on a minute here. Do you understand? I don't even have that kind of relationship with my union rep. And it's all meant to unsettle you, because the sole purpose in most of the disputes that happen at work is for the union to talk to the employer and to settle that dispute, sometimes with your knowledge and sometimes without.
Right.
Okay.
Well, like one of the audience members saying, I think I may drop out of my union. Well, if you've been in your union for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, and you've been paying that contribution each month, that adds up to a lot of money over those years. And if you're saying then, if anything was to happen, you could represent yourself, you could contact yourself, and you could coach people to do that. So I don't think you actually need to be in the union. So why are they actually there?
Because people get frightened when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And there is this myth that we're all in it together in a trade union. Okay. And I guess, in the days of old, when unions used to argue for pay rises, they used to try and get everybody in the union, because once they argue for pay rises, everybody got the pay rise. Wow. And so they used to make you feel guilty and say, look, we're fighting for you as well. Yeah. So you should be in the union and support what we're doing. Yeah. Okay. Now, I would say to people that if you're in a trade union and you are paying those subscriptions, you need to look at the courses that the union has available that will help you to understand your employment rights. Right. That's the thing that you can do, because it's not an either or. Yeah. Employment rights online, we're there for everybody. Most of the people who come to me are unionized. Yeah, right. Most of them are unionized. Yeah. Okay. I would say it's about 60-40%. Wow. Unionized to non-unionized. Yeah. And I would say that if anybody's thinking of leaving the union, before you go, try and get some benefit for the money that you have paid. All unions have an education program. Have a look at that education program and see if there are courses that help you to understand your employment rights. See if there are courses that help you to lodge a grievance. See if there are courses that help you if you're facing a disciplinary. That's what you should be doing. Yeah. Excuse me, to get value for the money that you have paid. Yeah. Okay, that's the first thing I would do. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. That's the first thing I would do. And I did all of that before I left the union. Right. The courses were rubbish, so I wrote my own. Yeah. Okay. Because there are two parts to dispute. There's sorting the problem out, and then there's the emotional and mindset impact that follows the dispute. And nobody deals with that bit, but I deal with that. But we have a massive, massive problem around bullying and harassment. Absolutely. In the workplace. Yes, that is a big thing. It's a huge problem. Big thing. And this is more than just these little courses that are, what is bullying, this is what your employer should do. It's more than that that's needed. Okay. And in March, I'll be launching a bullying and harassment course. Okay. For people that will take people deeper into not just what bullying and harassment is, but how you defend against it at work, and also how you deal with the aftermath. Okay. Because if you come through that whole episode, you're going to be affected, and no one deals with that. Okay. No one deals with that. In my other role as a talk therapist, I found people were coming to me for one thing, but the root cause was something else. Wow. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So in March, I'll be launching a bullying and harassment course, which will deal with bullying, toxic workplace relationships, harassment, all of these things. What is it? How do you tell the difference? What are the steps you need to take to challenge it? What if you're accused? And also the impact and the impact on mindset.
Yeah.
So I'll be dealing with all of that.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So you definitely need to be coming back on the platform and talking to us again about all of that.
Yes.
Dr. Asha, this has been so interesting, so fascinating. Thank you so much for coming on the platform. I cannot believe an hour has passed already.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's been brilliant. A few other questions. Carol, she was saying it's 26 years since she's paid into the union. So another lady said you need to get that money on the lottery, Carol. Yes, she does. So details of the courses in March. All right, so somebody wants the details of the courses.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll put the details in this chat.
Yes.
There's a waiting list, and so it's called a bullying course at employmentrightsonline.com.
Okay.
So that's bullying course at employmentrightsonline.com. And I'll post the link, the email into the chat so that you can give out that information if people ask. So I've put that there. And if anybody wants to contact me, they can contact me at office. I'm typing it in. Office at employmentrights.com, employmentrightsonline.com. Okay.
That's brilliant.
So it's office at employmentrights.com, employmentrightsonline.com. That one is to contact me. And then the podcast, most people listen on Spotify, but I will post.
If you put that one in the Facebook comments, and then people can pick
I don't have access, so probably what you.
All right, okay. You put it in the notes, and I will.
And you'll copy them.
Yes.
Okay.
Please. Yeah.
So
brilliant.
I'll give people the three sites.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's in the podcast, and then I'll just list them here. Okay. iTunes, Buzzsprout, and Spotify, but you can also get it on Google Podcasts. It's on there now.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And Carol's saying, thank you, ladies. Very interesting. I'm going to go and do the lottery now. But no, that's so interesting. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And we definitely need to, you definitely need to be coming back on the platform.
Yes, I mean, I'll come back just before the course launches, so that people get another opportunity to register. But people can follow me, follow Employment Rights Online on Facebook, on Instagram. Just look for Employment Rights Online.
Yeah.
And then just join the page, also join the private Facebook group, because there, you know, we do talk about problems that might be coming up for people, but we talk about it in private.
Oh no, that's brilliant. Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Asha. And thank you so much to our audience. Thank you for interacting and asking questions, and I hope you got all the answers you wanted. Dr. Asha, I've got all her details, and I will be putting them in the comments so you can have all the information there, and then you can go and you can go on Facebook, Instagram, go online and get all the information you need, and listen to the podcast as well. Okay, but thank you so much, and it's so nice to be back on the platform. Real Table Talk, yay! It's so nice to be here. We've got a special show on the 30th, because we're coming on once a month now, which is the first Sunday of, it's going to be the first Sunday of each month. So the next one is the 6th of February, where we're talking about sickle cell. But in between that, on the 30th of January, we've got a special guest, Annette Joseph, and she has just recently received an MBE for technology, her work in technology. And so she is coming on the platform to tell us her story. So that's Sunday, the 30th of January. Really looking forward to that. I will be posting out all the information, and also Annette on the 6th. I think Annette has just joined us now. Hi, Annette. Annette is coming on the 6th of February, and we are having a conversation regarding sickle cell. So yeah, that'd be really interesting. But thank you so much, everybody. Oh, Marcia's popped on. Can I say, Dr. Asher helped me so much with a positive outcome and wasn't even in the country at the time. So sorry I wasn't able to make it tonight. Oh, that's fine, Marcia. I hope you're feeling much better. And we will see you. I've told everybody about the 30th and the 30th of January and the 6th of February. So thank you so much, everybody. And we will see you then. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.